Welcome to Last in Line podcast, where we are highlighting, showcasing, and spotlighting great leaders of faith who have overcome adversity, cultivated resilience, and served others in a significant capacity. So settle in and be encouraged by this episode of Last in Line podcast. Hey, I want to welcome Ken Joslin, who is the CEO of Ken Joslin Team and the Grow Stack Drive brand. Ken was a pastor and is now turned coach and real estate powerhouse. He hosts Create, which is the #1 entrepreneur conference in the Southeast, and as the Leader Grows podcast. He shared stages with people like John Maxwell, Itzler Grant Cardone, to name a few. He has the GSD Elite Mastermind, which is an exclusive community of high performers and top earners. He is a driven leader. Ken is all about leadership. He's closed over $250 million in real estate transactions. He's the author of a best-selling book called As the Leader Grows. He is the go-to coach for entrepreneurs right now. He's one of the main names in that space. He builds confidence, gains clarity, and creates community with his teams. We have an interesting conversation how he came up with that, how he came up with Grow Stack Drive. He's got some great insight on how to plan, how to set goals, how to write things and look at them and repeat and do it multiple times a day to stay disciplined in tracking goals and following up with goals, self-assessment. We talk a lot about his faith, about failed relationships, about childhood trauma. Ken is a well-renowned leader in not only the real estate space, but just the coaching community. So it's been an honor to get to know him. He is all about building servant leaders and creating these events and masterminds where iron can sharpen iron, and that's what we're all about. So I think you're going to enjoy this. You're going to get some great insight on business, great insight on goals, great insight on faith, and maybe Ken is a cautionary tale in some things about his past relationships and what revelation he had that might help you. So with that, help me welcome Ken Joslin to Last in Line podcast. Ken Joslin, man, welcome to Last in Line podcast. Great to have you.
What's up, my friend? Good to be here, dude.
Dude, it's good to meet you in person. I see enough of you to feel like I know you on socials, which is kind of how we do things nowadays. Mm-hmm. That's a good vetting platform for everybody. You can sort of see a little bit, but we don't get behind the curtain. So that's what we're doing here. We're going to get behind the curtain of Ken Joslin, and we're going to hear what you're about, man, because you come highly recommended from somebody we respect, very highly, mutual friend. And man, you've been in business, you've been in vocational ministry, you've been all over the place. You're in coaching, you're writing books, you're having events coming up. I think you got a big one coming up, but we'll talk about it toward the end. But man, before I get into this, we're gonna have a little fun at first. Before we get in the weeds and get knee deep in serious stuff, we might laugh a little bit too along the way. I don't know if you're okay with that.
I'm good.
Give me some dessert before dinner here, and let me know what you want the audience to take away. You don't know what we're talking about. You have no idea. Yeah. You know what you're passionate about. You know that our faith is at the core of this, whatever conversation we're going to have. What's a walk-away win for somebody today listening to Ken Joslin?
Yeah, I think, everything that we do inside of GSD, I've got an online community of unbelievable entrepreneurs, one of the top faith-based masterminds in the country, the #1 faith-based entrepreneur conference in the country. But everything we do really revolves around our core 5, which is faith, health, relationships, business, and finances. And I've been doing ministry literally ever since I gave my life to Christ in August of 93. And, I've been also fortunate to be around some very high-level entrepreneurs, 2 of which I was on the phone with today already. We're recording this on July the 4th. And I would say that I've been around in the last 25 to 30 years. I've seen a lot of people win, or what they thought was win, in their business and their finances, but neglect their faith, health, and their relationships. And when your faith, health, and relationships aren't in alignment, you may think you're winning in your business and finances, but one of two things almost always happens. Number one, you either lose it all because your foundation's not good, or you lose everything around you, which then in turn makes your business and your finances not enjoyable. It makes it to where literally you can lay your head down on your pillow at nighttime and you're the most unfulfilled, incomplete human being on the planet. It doesn't matter how many commas or how many zeros you have in your bank account or how successful your business is, man. If you don't have people to celebrate it, you don't have a good community circle and corner, you don't have those strong relationships because you've neglected faith, health, and relationships. Literally, dude, it's a very sad and lonely place to be.
Yeah. And I'm assuming maybe to a degree you speak from experience in some of that. And
yes, people are always like, they're like, dude, you've got so much wisdom. I'm like, man, I'm 54 years old. Do you know how many mistakes I've made in the last 40 years? A lot.
It's called hard knocks. It's called life lessons. Yeah.
And I've got amazing friends that I get to learn from their mistakes as well, which is huge, huge.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's good. And you're that for others. And that's kind of iron and sharpening iron, really the crux of it. All right. So have a little fun here. We're going to complete the sentence. You're chopping it up at your local coffee house with some of your guys. All right. And I'm going to give you some sentences here. You're going to fill them out. You're going to finish them. As a man, and this is Ken talking, as a man, I could be more intentional in the area of.
Ooh, I'm pretty intentionality. Consistency is my word this year.
Mm-hmm.
More intentional in sticking with my nutrition plan. I'm down 82 pounds, but dude, I'm just telling you, there's one, I tell people all the time, I have the same two spiritual gifts as Jesus. I like to hang out and I like to eat. And there's this inner 15-year-old fat kid trying to get out of me all the time. I think it's more intentional in my health. I think anytime you win at a high level, and then my health journey has been over 3 years, down 80 pounds. I've been to 45 F45 gym locations, got guys like Gary Brecka and Mark Wahlberg who brought F45 to America. Like, dude, Ken's knocking it out of the park. So I think anytime you win in some areas over a long period of time and you've been successful, I think you can coast instead of being intentional. But I think dude, I'm pretty intentional. I'm pretty intentional in everything I do. So I would say that's probably the one thing, because I've been kind of plateaued. I wouldn't say stuck, kind of plateaued for probably 5-6 months in my health journey. I eat well. Probably eat too well, but I work out I was at the gym this morning.
Yeah.
4th of July. Finished number 1 in my F45 class this morning.
There you go. I mean, there's no doubt that you're putting in the work, and sometimes it's okay to treat yourself, and not get burnt out. It's kind of a blessing and a curse whenever I ask that question, because the blessing is that I have such great people come on this show who are high level entrepreneurs, faith guys that are just hard charging dudes that know how to win. And then I ask them that question. They're like, dude, intentional. That's what I'm about. I don't know where I could be more intentional, right? Maybe I could read the word, read the Bible 2 hours a day, more than 1 hour a day, but no, you guys are already kind of hitting the ball out of the park in that area. So here we go. Here's another one. The 3 keys to my success as an entrepreneur are, and you're going to probably say GSD. Let's say, with the exception of.
No, it's not, man. It's my relationship with Jesus, number one. I was never uber successful until I gave my life to Christ in August of 93. Wow. I didn't know about mission statement, visions, core values. I didn't know about any of that stuff until I met a good friend named Ron Luce, who ran, Teen Mania, which is the largest probably parachurch organization, in the late 90s, early 2000s. I mean, Ron was filling arenas up with 12 to 20,000 kids almost every weekend, and the Silver Dome the first year with 80,000 people, and having guys like John Maxwell, President Ford, Zig Ziglar, all the leadership, all the Les Brown, like all the guys, teaching leadership to a bunch of, senior and student pastors. And so I'd say number one is my relationship with Jesus. That's when I started to learn about mission and really about vision. Habakkuk 2 says, write the vision down and make it plain. And it's crazy because in my planner, what do? I learned this from Grant. Goals twice a day. I write my goals down twice a day. Like, and that literally it's so funny because everything, I said this to somebody a couple weeks ago, every leadership principle you hear is backed up in scripture. There's some kind of, it's all derived from scripture. And it's so funny because I was telling my significant other this. I said, we were talking about something I learned from a good friend, G.S. Youngblood's book, The Masculine in Relationship, which is a phenomenal book. If you're a man, you need to read the book. It's called The Masculine in Relationship. And in that book, in The Masculine in Relationship, he talks about holding space, the man holding space for his partner or for his wife. And it's funny because he's not a believer. And it is a secular point of view. But the other day, I'm listening to the book Love and Respect, which is like probably one of the top relationship books out there. And he talks about Proverbs 12:16, where he says a man conceals wrong. And he talks about it. Basically, he says this is where a man holds space for his partner. When his partner gets elevated or does something wrong against him, he holds space for her. And I'm like, I knew there was a biblical precedent for this principle. So number one, I would say Jesus. Number two would be relationships. It's always relationships. Dude, proximity is a cheat code. It is a cheat code. I am more convinced of it now than I ever have been before. It's like back in the day. I don't know how old you are. You got a little gray in your beard, but you ain't as old as this cat is. I'm old.
Almost.
I'm talking about back in Nintendo days when you had Contra.
Yes.
And, me and my buddy Mickey would stay up all night long and try to beat Contra. This is before the internet, so you couldn't Google Contra cheat code. You had to wait for the word to come through like Blockbuster or wherever you were checking out video games. And somebody go, hey, dude, there's a cheat code for Contra. You're like, what? Yeah, dude, up, down, left, right, A, B, start, unlimited lives.
That's right.
Like, get out of here. So we'd go home, and then what do? We beat Contra that very first time. And the reality of it is relationships, dude, are the exact same way. They are a cheat code. Everything that individual's done or everything that they've accomplished, what it does when you get around them with the right spirit and the right heart, it unlocks the belief in you that, dude, if he can do it, I can do it. I was on the phone with Randy Garn this morning, just 10 minutes, just a quick call, conversation, I had some questions. Randy's on the board with Tony Robbins, New York Times bestselling author, runs his own VC firm in Salt Lake City. He is the most connected person that I know. Best friends with Dean Graziosi, was Dean's best man in his wedding. Partners with Brendan Burchard and High Performance Institute. That's how Brendan's coming to our Create conference in the end of July. Like, I'm on the phone with Randy for 10 minutes going, hey, dude, how do I handle this? How do I work this partnership? How do I make a connection and make sure that there's some kind of a referral basis in this? Because it's going to be a huge connection. And I've got guys like that are helping me put that together. Are you kidding me? Proximity is a cheat code. So one, Jesus. Number two, relationships. Number three, I would say is a concept that I created when I started my health journey called incremental, not monumental. Small daily disciplined decisions over time always equal monumental results. Success cannot escape you when you do the right things every single day. And dude, I'm not the most talented. I'm not the best looking. I'm not the most gifted. I'm not any of those things. But no one will show up day in and day out more than I do. It's not going to happen. I told my team yesterday, Monday, alarm clock went off at 4, and I'm like, dude, I do not want to get up. I even set my alarm. I grabbed my phone. I changed it to 5:30 because I'm still going to make all my appointments. But I set my alarm for 5:30. I roll back over and I sat there for about 30 seconds, and I'm like, dude, you got to get your ass out of bed. There's too many people you're depending on. Too many people you're depending on. And that probably hasn't happened in 6 months for me, but it happened yesterday. Just yesterday that happened. And I rolled back over. I got up. And I went, nope, we're going to get our ass up. I went to the gym, bro. I was like, I went to F45 at 5 a.m. and I was like, I was miserable. But I did it. And that's why I said on my Instagram post, I said, listen, sometimes the win isn't just showing up and giving it your best effort.
No, it is. And doing the right reps make you better, right? And just do enough of them and around the right people, right? The right reps around the right people, the right amount of times, and you will, you'll connect the dots. I'm pretty sure you'll connect the dots if you stay consistent. It sounds like that's what you're all about, is consistency. And, well, okay. Man, that was a good answer. We could just stop right there. How about this one? I look forward to the day when. Something you're looking forward to. I don't know if you're a dreamer or not. You seem like you are, but I look forward to the day when.
I heard TD Jakes do a message 24 years ago. As a pastor's conference, and the title of his message was called "A Place Called There." And he said, if you're living for the outcome, or if you're living for the destination, if you're living for a place called there, he said, when you get there, it's always going to leave you empty. He said, most pastors are living for the next thing or the next thing or the next, instead of embracing the journey and embracing the process, which I've learned to do. So I don't know that I would say, what am I looking forward to? I'm looking forward to today. Looking forward to what today has to offer, whether it be good or what. Listen, dude, I got my Traeger loaded down with country style ribs. I got wings going on there. I got smoked sausage. I'm making roasted cauliflower, mashed cauliflower. I've got green beans in the crock pot. Dude, I'm looking forward to it right now, like today, what's right in front of me. Because what I've learned to do, dude, is embrace the freaking process. Yeah. Even when it's not good, I embrace the process. Then what happens is, and I've noticed in some of the relationships I have, I've been on the phone with two ridiculously successful, uber successful people this morning already. And the one thing I love about both of them are they're just like this. Dude, they're so even keel. They don't get too excited. They don't get too down. Do they have bad days? Of course they do. Everybody does. Do they have huge wins? Of course they do. But they just don't go crazy when they have the wins, and they don't go crazy when they have the losses or they get punched in the gut. They just don't do it. They understand that this is, and I've heard this, I think it was Rick Warren said this, we tend to overestimate what we can do in the short term and underestimate what we can do in the long term. Yeah. And this life's a marathon, bro. It's not a sprint. So what am I looking forward to? I'm looking forward to today. I'm looking forward to sitting down and having a conversation with you.
That's good. No, who wouldn't be? Ken? No.
I know, right?
No, I'm playing. But no, something hit me just now. Something came to me when you said that. So act like you've been there before when it's good. Mm-hmm. And when it's bad, act like you won't go there again. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of one of those, you can stay even, mm-hmm. right? So I'm not going back to this. I'm going to learn from it. I'm not going to live in the past. I'm not going to let it hold me down, anchor me to that. I'm not going to stay tethered to that mistake, not going back there. But when I'm really good, staying humble, understanding God graced me with that opportunity. He gave me the gifts, and stay right there and act like I've been there before. So I don't know. It just came to me when you're talking about never get too high or too low. I used to tell kids when I'd coach baseball, I used to tell them that, like, attitude, never, it's the only two things you can control, and never get too high or too low when things happen. Cause obviously it's a game of failure, but all right. I digress a little bit, man. All right. So give the Christian men a little bit of advice here on before we get into kind of the nuts and bolts of our conversation today about you and your businesses. If I could give Christian men one piece of advice, it would be
hold space for your partner. It's the one thing I've learned over the past 6 months that I did not know how to do. I walked into a therapist appointment. It was my first one with an amazing woman here in Birmingham. I tell people she's a mild version of Medea. She's like a late 50s-year-old black lady. She's hilarious. I walk in the office. She looked at me right now. She goes, Ken, how are you and Jesus doing this week? She's like, you praying in the Spirit this week? How are you and Jesus doing?
Let's get right to it, Ken.
I'm like, she don't play, bro. She don't play. She will call you out on your BS in about 2 seconds. And I'm like, we're doing good. And the first session we had about a year and a half ago, I was just coming off of a divorce, a 27-year marriage. And I was just in a lot of pain. And I walk in and she says, hey, tell me your story. And I said, Maxine, born in Detroit, raised in Pontiac. Parents got divorced when I was 8 years old in second grade. My mom moved us to Georgia. From my 6th grade year to my senior year of high school, I moved 6 different times back and forth to my dad's. I went to 12 different schools in 12 years. I went to 6 different high schools. And she looked at me, she's taking notes, and she looked up and she goes, honey, why in the world would you want to move so many times? And I said, Maxine, I didn't have a choice. If I ever got in trouble, my mom would tell me to go pack a bag. And I had 24 to 48 hours, and I was on a bus, a plane, or my dad was on the way to come pick me up from Michigan. And I've had 2 aha moments in my life. One was August of 93 when I gave my life to Christ, and this moment. And she looked up at me and she said, how do you think that's affected your relationship with the women in your life who are supposed to love and protect you? And I lost it, dude. I started to cry, and I thought about a relationship with somebody I had loved very deeply. And I had flown into San Francisco. She lives in Northern California in wine country. And she picked me up from the airport, and we made it about 15 minutes before we had an argument. And I made her pull the car over, and I got my suitcase and I got out of the car. And here was a 53-year-old man living out the trauma of a 13-year-old boy. Except now you're not going to tell me I have to go pack a bag and leave. I'm going to leave before you tell me. And here I was. I had this trauma that I had no idea was underlying in my life for 40 years. Had no idea it wasn't there. I didn't know how to hold space. I knew how to defend and how to explain my side to prove that I was right. But I didn't know as a man, when your partner gets elevated, to be able to hold space, to be able to stand firm. That scripture that I had right there from Proverbs 12:16, it says, a wise man hides error, like he covers, he holds space so that when his partner gets elevated, he stays firm, he stands firm. So what would I tell men? Learn how to not get elevated at your part. Hold space. I had to send it. When I learned that in GS's book, The Masculine in Relationship, everybody needs to listen. Everybody needs to listen to that Audible or buy that book. It is amazing. I had to send that woman in Northern California and my ex-wife. I sent them a screenshot of my notes from those 2 chapters and an email apologizing because I did not know how to hold space for them. And every time one of them would get elevated, I would get elevated too, because I had to prove that no, I didn't do anything wrong. I had to prove that I had to defend or explain instead of holding space for them. So then they could go, man, he loves me because he's holding space for me. Yeah. And then gives them the opportunity in a healthy way to come back and go, you know what, babe, I'm really sorry I took that out on you. Like, it really wasn't you. And even if it was me, hey, I'm really sorry that I got elevated for that.
What qualities in us need to be refined in order to get really good at that?
Well, I'll tell you this, if you can't do that, there's a couple things. And I taught this at my Create conference in January. John Maxwell, Ed Milet, all the guys are there at my conference in Atlanta. And I had my therapist, Lauren. She's my somatic therapist, which is basically teaches you how to control your central nervous system so you don't get triggered. So cause I would go 0 to 100. Oh, we're arguing? Pull the car over. Let me get my suitcase and I'm out of here. That's how I lived my life. I had no idea that it was trauma from being 13 years old until Maxine looked at me in that therapist's office that day and she goes, how do you think that's affected your relationship with the women in your life who are supposed to love and protect you?
Yeah.
Oh my, it was like
new normal
moment. Yeah. Oh my goodness, aha moment for me. I'm like, why in the world did I have to wait till I was 53 years old to learn this? So what I learned is, and what I taught at Create last year with Lauren on the stage sitting next to me, was if you cannot, 2 things, set and maintain healthy boundaries in your life. If you can't set and maintain healthy boundaries, or you react versus respond. React is 0 to 100. As soon as something happens, dude, you lose it. Instead of processing, okay, I feel that. Ooh, my nervous system is like going, ooh, it's getting all kinds of triggered, but no, I control my nervous system. Like, I can learn how to, like, even now, my feet are grounded on the floor. I feel my bottom in my chair. I am calm. I'm going to process through this, and then I'm going to respond. I'm not going to react. And if you react versus respond, or can't set and hold healthy boundaries, or like I mentioned earlier, that was a reaction. It's a sign of unresolved trauma in your life that you may not even know is there. And so what are the characteristics? The characteristics are set and hold healthy boundaries and learn how to respond versus react. And how many times have you said this? The person that gets under your skin the most is who? Your partner.
Yeah, closest to you. Yeah.
You better believe it, because you're the most intimate. They know how to get under your skin at a level nobody else does, because they know you. So what happens is, when the female gets elevated, our partner gets elevated, and God's made them to be emotional creatures. That's who they are. They're emotional creatures. That's how they're. Our role as men and as in the masculine is to hold space for our feminine. Hold space, babe. And you can even say words like, babe, I love you very much. The way you're talking to me right now makes me feel fill in the blank. Not you did this or you did this, but how you're saying this to me makes me feel this way.
Yeah.
Do we need some space?
Yeah.
Do you need some time to process through what's going on? I just had the conversation like this today, literally an hour before we're on the call. Hey, are you okay? Yeah, I didn't realize this came up and it's kind of got me triggered and I'm thinking about, and I said, hey, this is exactly what I did. It's okay.
Yeah.
We're going to be just fine.
Yeah.
You need some space to process through that. And let's talk this afternoon. Let's do that.
Well,
No, I'm okay. I'm okay. So I think so as a man, what's the one thing? Dude, I pastored a long time.
Yeah.
So here's the thing. People ask me all the time, what are we missing in church today? I've never heard what I just told you. I've never heard from the pulpit in church ever. We talk about the gifts of the Spirit, or we talk about the fruits of the Spirit, love, patience, peace, kindness, goodness, gentleness, self-control. Like we talk about all those things, but what does that actually look like? Because dude, when I got saved in August 22nd, 1993, I mean, I've been in ministry a long time. Very few people have I seen get saved like I got saved. Dude, my life was completely transformed, but yet that trauma was still in my heart, and I had no idea it was there.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, the reason we can't, I guess, practically engage in the habits and behaviors that are manifested by the fruits of the Spirit is because they're mostly against every one of our natural reactions as people. Like naturally, we don't act patiently. We're not into peace, love, kindness. Like our natural bend, thanks to the garden, is not that way. So it's hard to get our brain around it because that's not how we naturally are. And you said something that was pretty key. And I mean, you could look at my outline and I had nothing on here about relationships, but I love where we're going because I feel like somebody's needing this. Maybe it's me. I mean, maybe this is a mirror talk for me. We get frustrated with people we're closest to. I think in my instance anyway, they know all of our insecurities. They know our innermost, darkest shortcomings, secrets, those kinds of things. They know about us behind closed doors, which we resent that, right? We resent because we can't stand our own insecurities at the same time. So we're taking it out on them. And I think pride, ego, insecurity, all that factors into why I can't leave space for my partner. To what you were saying, like all those insecurities, I got to go tit for tat. She's going here, I'm going here. She's going up another rung on that ladder, I'm going to go up another one above her. Because tribally, right, back in the day, like we're instinctually survivors, warriors, right? So we're going at it. We're competing. We're competitors. So, I mean, what you said is huge, and why we don't hear that from the pulpit, I guess I don't know. Do you have any theory behind that? When you were a pastor, did you ever talk about that?
I really believe that. Because one of the things that I've learned is there really is, it's not that it's not gospel. Right. It's not that it's not scriptural. It is just a little different because we don't, I'm trying to think of the right word. There may not necessarily be chapter and verse for it. Let's say that. I don't know that there's chapter and verse for trauma. I'm sure we can find it. Yeah. But I don't know that there's necessarily chapter and verse for it. Here's what trauma looks like, and here's how you deal with it. Yeah. Because if you think about it this way, when you have trauma and you're doing those things, it's like, and two things. So number one, there's not chapter and verse. Number two, people don't really want to admit that's what they got going on. People don't want to admit they lose their temper, and this is what happens when they do. It's like we're really, and I think a lot of times, boy, I don't even know. This is a we've opened up a opened up a can of worms right here. I think in that, 2 Corinthians 5:17, if any man's in Christ, he's a new creation. Old things have passed away. Behold, all things have become new. When I got saved, dude, that's what happened in my life. I'm talking about, there was such a transformation, such a healing work in a lot of areas, but that trauma was one of them that wasn't instantly taken away from me. I didn't even know it was there for 30 years, for 25 years. I had no idea it was there. And so when I found out, I was like, oh, I got to do some work. Started doing somatic therapy. So, I mean, I've been going to therapists for 15, 20 years. It's not like I'd never been to therapy, but I had to find the right person that could help me understand, why do I go 0 to 100 in like 2.1 seconds. Like, why do I do that? It's because of trauma that happened to me when I was a boy. And here's the crazy thing. I told my therapist, I said, I used to wear that as a badge of honor. I went out to 12 schools in 12 years, 6 different high schools. You can drop me anywhere you want to around the country, and I'm just fine. I can fit in any environment you put me in.
I'm a survivor.
I can make friends. Yeah. Dude, I can make friends. I can help people. I can do anything. And this is what she told me. She looked at me and she goes, the reason you wore that as a badge of honor is because your subconscious didn't want to deal with the pain that you were going to have to go through to get that trauma healed.
Hey, gentlemen, I want to take a step back from this conversation real quick to just let you know of a free resource I have available coming in the next couple of weeks. All you have to do is email me, lastinlineleadership@gmail.com, and give me your address, email address, and I will send you this resource. It is all about strategic spiritual warfare, learning who our enemy is, what he's about, what his tactics are, and what we have available to fight against him. I want to thank our partners, Uncommon, where they are equipping men to be the husbands, fathers, and leaders we were called to be. Thank you for your support. Thank you for partnering with Last in Line. And let's get back to the conversation we're having with our great guest here at Last. You had to spin it in your own mind. Yeah.
We do that. Our subconscious, we have no idea that that's how our subconscious is really wired inside of our brain. My good friend Gary Brecka says your brain is like the Kim Jong-un of dictators. Like it does what it wants to survive. And he's 1,000% correct.
Yeah. No, it's good. Well, we could turn this whole thing upside down if we just kept going down the rabbit trail. But to transition a little bit, you went, I think in 2020 during COVID and all, hundreds of churches closed their doors, right? A lot of people were leaving the ministry, were forced out kind of. Now, that doesn't segue into why you left at all. I'm not saying that, but I'm asking you this question. Why transition into corporate America? And what are some of the hardest pivot points, I guess, or pain points in that transition for people? Like for you, when you left ministry to go into corporate America, like what are some things you had to really learn the hard way? And what are some things you're, I guess, that you got really good at?
Two things. So we found out my daughter was at Highlands College. So we're part of Church of the Highlands, fastest growing church in America, probably the most healthy church I've ever been in. 20 some odd campuses in Alabama, now in Columbus. We've got 2 in Columbus, Georgia. I don't know, 100,000 people at Easter this year. Pastor Chris is one of the most phenomenal leaders I've ever been around.
Is that Hodges?
Chris Hodges, yeah.
Hodges,
one of the most phenomenal leaders I've ever been around.
Yeah.
He's not the greatest communicator in the world. He's just not, but he's a great leader. And I've been around great communicators who are not great leaders, and they can't get their church to grow at all because they're not great leaders or great communicators, and they lean on their gift. They lean on their gift instead of honing on the inside of them what it takes to be a great leader.
Yeah.
And it's that's a whole
go into that. No, we're going to go into that. So go with that if you want. Go with that. Yeah.
I think that anytime I used to say this as a church planner, don't give me gifted people. Give me people who have a passion to get better. Boy, just give me people who are teachable and coachable and have a passion to get better. Dude, I can build some. Look at the disciples. Yeah. It's not like Jesus picked 12 disciples and everybody, they wouldn't, like if you're picking kickball teams in the 3rd grade, none of those dudes are getting picked, bro. None of those guys are getting picked. They're not getting picked. They're like, no, I'm not picking you.
Yeah.
Like they're going after the astute theologian, Pharisee, or
there's no Harvard grads in those.
Dude, they're not picking none of those guys. But what I've learned is, David in the Old Testament in 2 Samuel, his own father didn't even put him in the lineup to get picked by Samuel. Like he didn't even bring him in there. And he goes through the list. I think 6, 7 sons he brought. He goes, nope. Is there another one?
Where's the bat boy?
Yeah. He's on the back 40, tending sheep, killing lions, or so he says.
Sure.
And he's like, bring him to me. Like, don't give me talented people. Give me people who are coachable, teachable, and have a heart for God and have a heart to, and I think this is what our whole conversation was supposed to be about, servant leadership.
There you go.
That loves serving people, that really want something. And this is the number one talk I give across the country, everywhere I go. Servant leaders want something for people, not from people. It literally, how can I add value to you? How can I help you? What can I do for you? I was on the phone this morning with Erwin. I got a huge sponsorship for Create from a stem cell company, one of the largest stem cell companies in the world. They're down in Costa Rica. They're flying me down and doing like $45,000 worth of stem cell treatments on me. And I get to bring somebody else that I know that is also very well connected. And that's part of the sponsorship. I called Erwin. I'm like, dude, you want to go with me? I said, here's what they're going to do. And he goes, I'm in. And he's in vacation in Mexico at Mayakova with his family. And we were just FaceTiming right before we got on the phone. He said, dude, I can't believe you even considered me. I said, dude, number one, I love you. I'm excited to develop our relationship, but this is going to be an unbelievable opportunity for us to do this. But it is.
It's good.
Great leaders want something for people, not from people. Absolutely. How can I help you? How can I add value to what you're doing? And not go into it with the standpoint of, because when I go into it from the standpoint of what can I get from you, it erases all of the relational component and it adds the big fat nasty stamp of I'm transactional. I'm just here for transaction. I want what you can give me. Where when you come into it from a servant leader perspective and you want something for people, not from people, Zig Ziglar's my favorite Zig Ziglar quote. If I help enough people get what they want, eventually I'm going to get what I want. And you understand that. You can go into Galatians. I'm going to reap what I sow.
That's right.
And when you live life that way, dude, it's a game changer.
Yeah.
It is a difference maker in your life and all the people you come in contact with.
It is. And you being in the real estate business, assets, I guess, north of $250 million at any given point. You've had that kind of success. And we talked about the commas and the zeros in the bank account. That box was checked. A lot of other ones as well, but you decided, I guess you're locked into now becoming this coach and you're doing masterminds and you're connected with a lot of high level leaders, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, let's talk a little bit about this theme of yours, this grow, stack, drive. And I know you're doing the events and it's all about it's really all about leadership. It's all about connection. It's all about making others better. And then, what we just said, getting better ourselves and growing. How did you come up with grow, stack, drive? How did you come up with the quote underneath there is build confidence, gain clarity, create community. Why did you land on these? How did you land on those?
Well, there's two different stories. So GSD, I'm sitting in a meeting with my good friend, Nate May, who worked for John Maxwell for about 15 years. So I met John 20 years ago. I was in a meeting with Nate, a couple other guys, and my executive assistant. And we each I've got giant Post-it notes all over my office, all over my walls. We each had a giant Post-it note. We're writing our favorite adjectives on Post-it note. Then we had to go through and scratch everything off, pick our top 3. Everybody did. So now we've got 5 Post-it notes. We've got 15 words that we each loved. And we went through and then we just started eliminating words. And the last 3 words we had were grow, stack, drive. That was the last 3 words that were left. So build confidence, gain clarity, create community. This is hilarious. I'm in Clubhouse room, probably, I don't know, a year and a half, 2 years ago. And I'm in there. It's my room. Bradley, who's a good friend, pops in. Grant Cardone pops in. It's me, Grant, Brad, and a couple other guys. And we're talking about what I'm doing. And I'm talking about my conference I got coming up. This was at Brad's. This has been 2 years ago. I was doing a boot camp at Brad's, and Brad's like, well, what are they getting from? Brad's whole thing was helping people come in, and it was their pitch. Like you were giving your pitch. Brad's like, well, Ken, tell me what your pitch is. And I don't even remember what it was, but it wasn't build confidence, gain clarity, create community. It was crush limiting beliefs, blah, 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 blah. And Brad goes, what the hell does that mean? He goes, I have no idea what you just said. And we talked about insider talk, and Grant's making fun of me. Grant's laughing at me. And I'm on the spot, dude. There's 800, 900 people in my clubhouse room. And here's Grant and Brad. And dude, they're hammering me. It's my I'm literally on Clubhouse. You can't nobody see you. I'm sweating. Like, oh crap, I got to come up with something. Like, what do we, like, if I did say, if somebody came in and joined GSD for 6 months, what's the result going to be?
Nice.
And it can't be crush limiting beliefs. What the hell does that mean? And I'm like, oh my gosh. So I sat for 2 days and went, okay, what do we do? What do we help business leaders do? We help them build confidence, What is confidence? It's currency. You spend it in every relationship, every decision you make, in every relationship you build. What is clarity? Having an idea how to put together a plan. What are core values? Where do they come into play? How do I put down and create an actionable plan for me to get something accomplished? And then community. What's the number one thing I do? Dude, I connect people. I build community. We have the number one faith-based entrepreneur community in the world. Like, nobody's doing what we're doing when it comes to entrepreneurs at the level we're doing it. Nobody is. So that was it. Confidence, clarity, community. What do you get when you become a part of GSD? We're going to teach you how to build confidence. You'll be the most confident version of you. We're going to teach you how to get clarity. How do I get clarity on where I'm going? Because it's be like, hey, dude, we're going to go on vacation. Great. Where are we going? I don't know, man. Let's pack the car up and leave. Well,
right. Nobody does that.
You don't have directions? Nope. Have no idea where we're going. We're just going on vacation. Well, that don't sound like too good a vacation. And listen, you're probably not going to get where you want to go. So how do I get clarity? And the last thing is how do I build solid relationships? And people, number one question I get asked everywhere, how in the world do you have the relationships with the people? Dude, I got Brendan Bouchard coming in to speak at my mastermind and at Create Conference. Randy Garin, Gary Brecka, the number one biohacker in the world. Erwin McManus, dude, like the greatest storyteller, one of the greatest communicators on the planet. Who else I got coming in? My best friend, Master Jeff, Catherine Gordon, Amberly Lago. I mean, I got the best of the best of the best when it comes to faith, health, relationship, business, and finances. How do I do that? I want something for them, not from them. I create and foster environments where they can come into the mastermind, they can come into my conference, they can come into my community, and they can build relationships with other high-performing entrepreneurs.
What's the turnout?
Happen to be amazing people.
What's the turnout usually at that event? What do you foresee the turnout being?
550. We'll sell the building out that we're at.
That's amazing. Is this the first one you've done, or how many of these you do?
This is my third Create Conference. I've done about 7 live events, but this is my third Create Conference. We have John Maxwell, Ed Milet, Jesse Itzler, Brendan Bouchard, Erwin, John Gordon is going to be in.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I mean, you don't get much. I mean, I don't know if that's the Mount Rushmore of leadership right there. So, I mean, you're rubbing the right connections. All right. So let's talk. Okay. Real quick, relationships. Everybody wants to be good at it. Everybody wants to say that's a big thing. That's my focus. Like, that's an initiative in my New Year's resolution. I want to build relationships. Or in an interview, go to any interview any employee. Why should I hire you? Well, I'm good at building relationships. That's what I always used to say. I had a guy interviewing me that pushed back on me in that. And he said, relationships don't get the sale. They open the door for you to have an intelligent conversation that influences behavior that gets the sale. So talk to me about relationships. I mean, everybody wants to be good at it. Not everybody is. What do we have to learn most as people when it comes to relationships?
Well, we've talked about it already. It's wanting something for people, not from people.
Yeah.
My first book that I wrote was on As the Leader Grows, was basically that significance is greater than success.
Mm-hmm.
After my first big speaking engagement 20 plus years ago on a stage, about 9,000 people, I spoke behind John Maxwell for the first time. My mentor spoke behind me. She said, "Hey, can I take you to lunch?" I said, "Sure." So she took me to lunch the next day, and she goes, I'm going to ask you the most important question in your life. I'm like, okay, I can't wait to hear what this is. She said, "Do you want to be successful or do you want to be significant?" Because they're two vastly different things. And it started a 25-year journey or 23-year journey now of learning what it meant to be a significant leader and not a person who chased success. Because significant leaders build others around them so they can win, knowing, Zig Ziglar quote, if I help enough people get what they want, eventually I'm going to get what I want. People who chase success use people around them at those people's, peril a lot of times to be able to get what they want.
Yeah.
And so I think if you want to build the right relationships and you want to build great relationships like I have, it's literally show up, man, and add value. Want something for them, not from them.
I agree with that 100%. And I didn't mean to have you to make you feel like you needed to repeat that, because I didn't ask the question right. But I will say, what about the people that feel like, okay, chicken or the egg here? How do I get something for these people? Like, how do I offer this value to let me in the door to build these relationships? You know what I mean? So
what about the guy that's
like,
answer.
Yeah.
Yeah, easy answer. So I've got 6 guys in my text thread. I'm looking at my text thread right now. I've got 6 guys in my text thread. Brent Gove, he's one of the top guys at EXP. He has 29,000 agents in his organization. Makes about 1.2 million a month in his rev share. Gary Brecka, top biohacker in the world, probably making well over $1 million a month. Brian Covey, he's a senior vice president for Revolution Mortgage.
Friend of the show.
$5 billion, $5 billion in sales. Randy Garn, New York Times bestselling author, best friends with Tony Robbins, and Dean Graziosi's on the board. Vic Keller, one of my super good friends, lives in Dallas, Texas. Sold 11 companies to Warren Buffett for an ungodly amount of money that has a B in it. He served as the CEO for Berkshire Hathaway Automotives for Warren, as he calls him Mr. B, for 3 years. And then my best friend, Master Jeff, who Forbes magazine calls the Tony Robbins of Persia. Lives in Calabasas. I went to all 6 of those guys last year, and I said, listen, I want to be intentional in our relationship. I'm willing to invest my time, my talent, and my treasure in our relationship. My time, I'm going to fly where you're at. I've been to Calabasas to Jeff's probably a half a dozen times in a year and a half. I've been to Salt Lake City with Randy probably a half a dozen times. Brian Covey, I've been to Nashville several times. Gary Brecka, been to Miami several times. Brent Gove, I go to every event Brent does, and I've been to Puerto Rico to his house twice to hang out. Talent. How can I take what I do and the talents God's given me and help your dream that God's put in your heart come to pass? This isn't about my dream coming to pass. This is about me helping what God's put in your heart come to pass. How can I help that? And then treasure. All my guys that have events, Brent Gove, I bought as soon as tickets went on sale, how much is your front row seat? $4,000, $5,000, whatever. I bought the most expensive ticket. I'm on a call with Gary Brecka. He's speaking at GrowthCon last year. And he's like, we're on a Zoom call. He's like, dude, are you coming? I'm speaking at GrowthCon, first time ever. I said, yeah, dude, what's the day? I'll be there. He gives me the date. Dude, I had just bought front row seats to go see Eric Church in concert in Birmingham. It cost me $1,000 a piece. I had to sell them, and I only got them for I only got $650 or $700 from them, so I lost money. Then I had to turn around and buy a $10,000 seat to sit in the front row or second row at GrowthCon when Gary came down out of the chute to give his first talk in front of GrowthCon audience for Grant. So time, talent, and treasure. I'm going to invest those 3 things in our relationship to help you.
Okay.
So anybody can do time, talent, and treasure.
Yeah.
I said this last week. I was on Sean Mike Kelly's podcast, number 5 podcast in the country. Sean's got like 10 million followers on Instagram. And he goes, you mean you pay for your friends' conferences? I said, if I'm not going to buy the best ticket from them, who is? Like, I love and believe you. I love, believe, and support you. Why would I not buy your ticket? Why would I ask you for a discount? Right. If I have friends that have books, if I have a friend that drops a book, I buy 5 copies every time, sometimes 10.
Yeah.
And I just give them away.
It requires sacrifice is what I hear you saying. Like a lot of us think that we can just be a nice guy, a cool guy, and maybe have coffee with a guy and maybe lift some weights together. And then all of a sudden we've cultivated and forged this lifelong relationship. Well, you haven't sacrificed, and sacrificial love is the greatest kind. And so it sounds like to me, like you've proven that, and that's what these people see in you. That's why they're willing to reciprocate and invest in you. Because then, sacrifice begets sacrifice, and it's a two-way street. And so it sounds like you've kind of rubbed up against the right people, and you've proven yourself to be willing to sacrifice and make a commitment and be intentional about it. Well, all right. So that's a lot of good stuff. And man, maybe the people listening, and maybe yours truly, we can't buy a $10,000 seat, but we know somebody in our sphere of influence, and we know what they are dreaming about or what they're wanting to happen in their lives, what they're praying about. We can be a part of that. And it doesn't necessarily mean we have to, dump a life savings into that, but we can invest resources. We can invest time and our talents. So everybody's good at something. Everybody's got time. Everybody's got resources. So just like you said, we just scale it to what applies to our life. All right. So, man, you've definitely created confidence in your life and community and clarity. So I guess as we put a bow kind of on this conversation, because I know you got meat cooking, and we don't want that to burn. We can't have it be dry.
Oh, I got it low. I got it low and slow. Baby. We're good to go.
All right. Well, so there's obviously, what do you praying most for? Like right now, you're seeking God, you're pressing into God. What are you kind of expecting from him? Like, what is he, let's twofold. What's he teaching you? What are some of the biggest things God's teaching you right now? And then what are you praying to come to pass for you in your life?
Yeah, that at 54 years old, he continues to help me become the best version of myself. That's it, man. It's the journey. It's me becoming the best version of Ken. I've had 2 conversations in the last few weeks. One person said, he goes, man, you're different. He goes, you're calm. There's such a calm about you now that wasn't there a couple of years ago. And he's true. He's right. I've done a lot of work. And then someone that I love very much today was like, man, there's such a peace in your voice. There's such a presence in your voice that wasn't there before. You've still got energy. You've got all the energy you used to have. I've got a lot of energy. That's the one thing that drew me to Grant Cardone. I didn't know anybody that had more energy than I do. And Grant was one of those guys. But I've had 2 people that I care about very deeply say those 2 things to me in the last few weeks. And so I think, what am I expecting God to do? Just continue this journey of me becoming the best version of who I am. Because when and as I become the best version, all it does is the ripple effect and the impact that I get to make just gets larger and larger and larger. And dude, the journey is unbelievable.
Yeah. No, I mean, I can sort of see, and I've known you for all of about 5 seconds, but I can see there is a peace and there is this joy. Yeah. And there's a difference between happiness and joy, right? You can close a big deal and
did
you're
it on
happy.
my podcast this week. That's what I dropped Monday was joy is greater than happiness.
Okay, good. We're going to have to drop a link into the notes on that, but you do have this sort of joy and that's sustaining. Like joy sustains you. Happiness is fleeting and temporary.
Quick nugget on that. The word happiness is rooted from the word happenstance, which is rooted in the word circumstance. So if your circumstances are good, which are external, then you're happy.
Right.
Where joy is internal. Joy has nothing to do with your external circumstances. Doesn't matter what's going on around you. When you have joy, and that's what draws people to you. I call it life-giving, like having a life-giving presence. When you have a life-giving presence, it's like when your phone rings, dude, and you look at somebody and you see it's Brian Covey. Well, dude, you know what happens when Brian Covey calls me? I want to answer the phone. Because, dude, I know it's going to be good. I know when I get off the call with Brian Covey or Gary Brecka or Randy Garn or Vic Keller or Brent Gove or any of Master Jeff, any of my guys, Erwin McManus, I'm going to feel like $1 million when I get done with that call. So ask yourself this question. When you get off the phone with somebody else, have you made them feel like they're the best version of themselves and there's nothing they're dreaming about doing that's impossible? And if you've done that, just keep doing what you're doing. That's it.
Yeah. I mean, if you're the name that pops up on somebody's phone and they drop what they're doing to answer it, you're doing something right. That's who I want to be. No, I appreciate you saying that about joy and happiness because that's a big difference.
Yes,
all right, man. Let's land the plane for us and give our guys, Christian men, dudes that are, I mean, we got high level guys, we got just kind of regular Joes like yourself I'm sorry, yours truly, you're not an ordinary guy. I'm just kind of an ordinary average guy. Yeah. But dude, give us some nugget around faith that will help us exponentially kind of step into some stage of growth in our spiritual life. Like what can we walk away with today that we start tomorrow morning that's going to be like, okay, I think this might be it spiritually for us.
Easy. See this planner? Go to growstackdrive.com/planner. They're $25. Get one. Why? Because the one thing I learned from Grant Cardone that I'm telling you works is I write my goals down twice a day. Faith is this. Hebrews 11:1 says what? Faith is the substance of things what? Hoped for. Hoped for. Things not seen yet. If you're not writing it down every day, don't tell me you're hoping for it. When I heard Grant talk about 3 years ago why he writes goals down twice a day, and he said, listen, I'm gonna write my goals. Maybe I don't do it every day. But if I write my goals down every day, 365 days, that's 730 times I've written my goals down this year. The average person may write them once a year, maybe once a month. Listen, I write my goals down. I may not hit 365 days a year. I hit 300 or more. Let's just say I hit 300. And that's 600 times a year, I'm writing my goals down. So when somebody walks up to me and goes, Ken, what are your goals? Super easy. Chase is my team lead. I got 116 and 20. Chase is my team lead, 16 million in sales this quarter, 20 FLQAs with EXP. On the GSD side, 50, 100, 500, and 1,000. 50 people in my mastermind, 100 people in my online community, 500 people at both my create conferences, and 1,000 of my courses sold. That's $5.192 million in revenue. Personal goals, lose 106 pounds, time with my girls, me, healed and whole, shoot 80s in golf in 24 months. Those are my goals. I can tell you exactly what I'm going after every single day. I know exactly where I'm going. So faith is the substance of things hoped for. If you can't write your goals down and be that crystal clear, like I just gave them to you, you're never going to achieve. You're not going to achieve what you really want to. And a lot of us are afraid to write it down.
Yeah.
Trust God.
Yeah.
Trust God that he will bring it to pass and do all the things he needs to do in your life to put you in position to be able to see those things come to fruition.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Beautiful, man. I mean, this has been great. I appreciate your time today, dude.
I'm honored, man.
I'm going to have to, I don't know, I'm going to have to send something over to Mr. Covey because he introduced us, and this has been good, man. I'm glad that we got to meet, and I'm glad we got to make it happen. Somebody in the spiritual realm will remain nameless, didn't want this to happen, but we made it happen.
No,
and
God's good, dude.
No, I appreciate it, man. I hope to see more of your stuff. I know I will. And we'll I look forward to hearing how the event goes.
Well, you just need to get there. It's in Dallas. It ain't far. 26th, 7th, and 8th of July.
All right, man. Well, I appreciate it, sir. He has been Ken Joslin. We've been last in line. Be blessed.